If you have removed a ZP2 legacy panel and you have now replaced it with a ZP2 panel, this demonstration will guide you through the steps to get your new panel up and running. There are 3 tasks that needs to be completed. First thing you will need to do is to connect the field cables onto the panel and connect the resistors to any supervised inputs and outputs that are not used. Second, you will need to set the time and date and run the auto setup process, so that the panel is fault and condition free. The third task will be to configure the panel using the panel configuration software. So let's talk about task number 1. Connect your device loop cables to the following terminals. Loop number 1 cables are connected here, and if you have a 2-loop panel, then the second loop is connected here. If you are not using the onboard inputs and outputs, fit the 15K resistors to the terminals, otherwise the panel will permanently report a fault condition. Now connect the main supply and batteries to the fire alarm panel. After the panel has been powered up, the panel will report several conditions. You can view the conditions by pressing F1 to select Show Events. Using the jog dial button, select Conditions, then press the button. As you can see, the panel has reported that new devices have been discovered on the panel. Also reported is the time and date has not been set. Please be aware that every time the panel is powered up, you must always set the time and date, or the panel will always display this condition. Pressing F1 to select Exit will exit out of this menu. So, let's now set the time and date. To set the time and date, you must be logged into the panel, using either a maintenance or an installation code. For this example, we will use an installer code. To log into the panel as an installer, press F4 to select the main menu. Using the jog dial button, turn the dial and select a user which has the installer credentials. Now press the jog dial button to scroll down to the password option. Using the jog dial button, select the correct password for the user. To do this, simply turn the jog dial button to select the correct number, and by pressing the jog dial button will move the cursor to the next digit. Now press the jog dial button or F4 to enter into the installer menu. Using the jog dial button, select Panel Setup, then press the jog dial button. Now select Date and Time and press the jog dial button. You can now set the time and date. Pressing the jog dial button will move the cursor one step over to the right. Once you have finished setting the time and date, simply press F4 to select Enter. Then press F1 to select Back. Now we will run the auto setup process to learn the devices onto the panel. Press F1 to select Back. Now select Field Setup and press the button. Select Auto Setup and press the button. Then select All Loops and press the button. Once the auto setup has completed, you will see the following. This is a list of all the different device types that has been learned by the panel and their quantities. Now press F2 to select Exit, then F3 to select Apply to complete the process. The panel will not have any conditions shown on the panel. Please be aware that all sounders and outputs are all now live, and if a device is activated, the sounders and outputs will activate. We will now use the ZP2 configuration software, which is called PCC, to configure the panel. Select Project, then New. Now enter a project name. Please be aware that the project name will appear here on the panel once you have sent the new configuration to the panel. For this example, I will call this project the Tool Shop. Now click on OK. Double-click on the project or click once on the project, then select Open Project. Click on 001, which is panel number 001 on this project. Now select the correct panel type. Select ZP2-FX if your panel looks like this. Select ZP2-FX-FB if your panel looks like this. Select ZP2-FX- EX, if your panel looks like this. Select ZP2-FX-SCFB, if your panel looks like this. The ZP2-FX-SC is no longer manufactured and has been replaced by this panel. For this example I am using a ZP2-FX panel. Now you need to select the following. ZP2-F1 is what you will need to select if your panel is a one-loop panel. ZP2-F2 is what you will need to select if your panel is a two-loop panel. ZP2-FR is what you will need to select if your panel is a repeater panel. ZP2-FR-C is what you will need to select if your panel is a compact repeater panel. For this example I will select ZP2-F2, as I am using a two-loop panel. Now click on panel 001. Select the software version which is identical to the panel firmware version. If you are unsure how to view the firmware version on the ZP2 panel, visit the ZP2 YouTube channel where you will find a demonstration video on how to review the firmware version on a ZP2 panel. Connect the USB lead into the ZP2 panel into the following port. Please be aware that the panel will display an earth fault at this point. Now select Communication, then select Read from Panel. Select Current Panel. Select Yes to connect to the panel. The panel will now send to the computer the configuration data. Select Yes to overwrite the blank project with the panel configuration data. The second line on the panel is the panel name. If you want to change this, click on the panel name field. For this example, I will change the panel name to Panel 1. Now click here to configure the rest of the panel information. Click on the Device tab to configure the devices. Select Configure Loop 1 to configure the devices that are located on loop number 1. Now I will show you a handful of examples on how to change the device's settings. Let's start with changing the setting on the MCP which is located on loop 1 address number 4. Click on the MCP. Now you can change the device location description, also known as the device message, by clicking on the description field. For this example, I will change the device description to main door. To change what zone the device is allocated to, simply click on the zone field and change the zone number. As you can see, it is as simple as this to move the device into the required zone. Now let's change the settings on the OHDM, which is a multi-sensor located on loop 1 address number 5. Click on the OHDM location on loop 1 address 5. Now you can change the device location description by clicking on the description field once again. For this example, I will change the device description to workshop. Now I will demonstrate how to change the device sensitivity during the night and during the day. The day op mode is the setting for the device for the daytime and night op mode is the setting for the nighttime. To find out what the numbers relate to, click on the device type here. Now the help box will display all the options on the sensitivity setting definitions for the device type. By selecting the day op mode or the night op mode field, you can change the setting. The help box can be used to find out the sensitivity settings of all the other detectors also. For example, here are the settings for an optical heat detector and here are the settings for an optical detector. If you have a two-loop panel and you want to configure the devices on loop number 2, click on the close box, then click on the Configure Loop 2 Devices box. If you require more information on configuring devices, there are more detailed guides here on the ZP2 YouTube support channel. To change the zone descriptions, simply click on the Zones tab. Then click on the zone number that you want to change. For this example, I will change the zone description for zone number 1. Click on the description box. Now change the zone name. For this demonstration, I will change the zone number 1 description to ground floor. If you have fitted a zone indicator board onto the panel, click on the Expansion tab. Make sure that this box is ticked, otherwise the zone indicator board will remain inactive. Once you have completed the configuration changes, simply click on Communication, Write to Panel, then click on Current Panel and then select Yes to connect to the panel. This will send the configuration to the panel. Once this has been completed, click on Disconnect and then remove the USB cable from the fire alarm panel. Now the panel has been fully configured and is ready for a full commissioning validation check. Once again, for a more in-depth help on many of the options shown in this guide, please visit the ZP2 support page.